everyone, evening. I hope you guys are all well. Hopefully the connection's going to play ball, not like last week we had all this jiggery pokery trying to get it to connect. Hopefully this is working. Hopefully everyone can hear me. The camera is a little bit farther away, so I can't quite see who's joining. If you're joining, can someone just give me a quick thumbs up just to let me know that we're all clear, coming through clear, all good connection. Hopefully we are. How is that? Hi Linda, evening Sam, everyone, Laura. Ah, brilliant. Okay, so that's good. I know I'm coming through. So I hope everyone is well. Hello Marcia, I hope you guys are all well as well. Hi Jeanette. I'm just going to give this just a couple of seconds just to let everyone. So I'm not usually the iPad is usually right in front of me, so I can see who's joining. I can read the comments, but obviously this is a little bit further away, so I have to try and lean in a little bit. Hi Rachel. Hi Louisa. Okay, so I hope everyone is well. I hope you had a nice weekend. I hope that, I guess, we're all continuing as best we can with the health rituals. Obviously last week, the optimal weight week was about a load of momentum. Everyone was really engaged, really committed. It was a brilliant week, and the motivation for that, I suppose, the reason we did that was obviously with the motive that people continue as best they can to continue with those health rituals. If you do it for a week, you get a very clear game. But if we can try and embed, as many of them as we can into our life as the weeks and months and years unfold, the evidence tells us it gives us this, very, very significant impact upon our health, our well-being, antidoting those trilogy of killers we've spoken about so much, facilitating weight loss. So I know it's hard. I know sometimes continuing those kinds of rituals longer term is difficult, but I hope everyone's been able to some extent. If you are finding the motivation has dropped a little bit, if you're looking for a little bit more inspiration, if you're looking for new high volume, low calorie density meals like we covered last week, if you're looking just to really keep that momentum, remember the 12-week program, the 12-week Ayurvedic abundance diet. We kick off this time next week. Is day 1 of the 12 weeks. Currently just over 80% full. So if you're looking to join, be quick, because I think maybe by Wednesday it'll be full. So this time next week we'll have started the journey. So in 12 weeks from Monday, we will hopefully have really just completely transformed our health, hit our health goals, hit our weight loss goals. And I know I'm seeing lots of the names here I recognise as having signed up. So for those of you who've signed up, it's so great that you've committed to continuing this momentum. And if you're thinking of signing up, I hope you join us before we fill up. But tonight I just want to briefly talk about something that is really integral to Ayurveda. It's really integral to the science of Ayurvedic nutrition, Ayurvedic diet, weight loss, health promotion. And again, like a lot of the things we've spoken about, it's joined up. It's that ancient approach, ancient wisdom that's very much being supported by some pretty cutting edge Western research, particularly in America, which is about what is called churnas. Okay, churnas. So all churnas. So within Ayurveda, something called Agni. Agni is our digestion in its entirety. It's everything to do with our digestion. And churnas are one of the approaches that Ayurveda turns to help keep everyone's digestion and Agni working properly. There's a really famous saying in Ayurveda that a man or a woman is only as old as their Agni. So if their Agni, their digestion, if it's strong, if it's robust, if it's efficient, if it's effective, it helps keep our body young and vital. As we extract more nutrients from the food we eat, it prevents stagnation, it prevents weight gain. And again, there's a lot of Western evidence to support that. So churnas play a really, really integral role in the whole concept of nutrition. And there are churnas, there's dozens and dozens of churna blends. There's dozens of them. There's churna recipes. All a churna is a ground up blend of culinary herbs. We're not talking about dispensary herbs, medicinal herbs. They are medicinal, but we're talking about culinary herbs that you can buy from Tesco's or Co-op or Sainsbury's, whatever it is, okay? So they're just a selection of herbs that come in different ratios depending upon what you're trying to achieve, that are ground up into a fine powder. So there's churnas for IBS, there's churnas for constipation, there's churnas for balancing vata and pitta and kapha, there's churnas for supporting immunity, there's churnas for reducing inflammation, there's churnas for energy, there's dozens and dozens of these pre-formulated churna recipes that we can literally pick off the page. We can go to Tesco's, we can buy them, we can prepare them, and we can use them. And they're really, in clinic we use churnas a lot because it's that classic case of empowerment. If someone comes because they've got IBS, and we've seen churnas, fix or resolve about 50 to 60% of IBS symptoms straight off the bat before you even begin to look at dietary change and bowel function and this, that and the other. So the beauty of churnas is once you know them, once you understand them, you can use them for the rest of your life. It's that classic case of empowerment. And I'm not going to be talking about all those ones. Again, we'll be talking about different churnas a lot in the 12-week program. For those of you who've signed up, you're going to get a lot of recipes, a lot of different herbal blends for churnas. That comes as part of that 12-week plan. But what I want to talk about tonight is in keeping with obviously the optimal weight week, which is all about our metabolism and facilitating the biochemistry of the body in a way that supports weight loss. And if you remember back to, when was it? Tuesday last week, we spoke about metabolic stimulation, and we spoke about triphala, and we spoke about ginger, and we spoke about why metabolic stimulation is so important. This idea that if our metabolism is burning faster, then we burn calories more quickly, which means over any given period of time, if we eat 1,000 calories, if our metabolism is strong and fast, we burn more of that 1,000 calories than if we eat the same food with a low metabolism. So without changing what we're eating, we can burn more calories, more fat, support more weight loss just by firing up our metabolism. And we spoke about triphala as a way of doing that, a very, very evidence-based way of doing that. And we spoke about ginger, likewise, having strong ginger tea, ginger shot, ginger digestive stimulant, half hour, 40 minutes before meals. And both of those two approaches are kind of the same because you're taking them away from food. You're taking them in the morning, you're taking them half hour before you eat. The aim being that they increase our digestion before you put the food in. Churnas work in a different but equally effective way. So rather than putting ginger or triphala into the body half hour before we eat to ramp it up, what you're actually doing is you're using a selection of herbs that are all clinically proven in their capacity to stimulate metabolism and stimulate the mechanisms of burning fat in the body. Okay, so this is the blend we're talking about. So in there's 6 or 7 herbs that make that up. The phytochemicals, the plant-based chemicals in there, do lots of things. They're immune stimulating, they're anti-inflammatory, but in the context of what we're talking about, they help to fire up metabolism. They increase our metabolic rate, they burn fat, they burn protein. But the real benefit, the real power, and I think it's a completely unique power. I've never seen anything else in herbal medicine, integrated medicine, natural medicine that works in the same way. And I think we're going to see a lot of these. I think as Ayurveda gains more traction, particularly in Britain, I think we're going to see more and more articles and features around the concept of churnas, because what makes them so effective is that you're actually adding them into your food. And you can add it in at the start of cooking, or you can add it in at the end of cooking, depending upon how you prepare it. But the real unique power of that is that by adding a very small amount, we're talking about about 1/4 to 1 teaspoon of churna per person. Okay, so depends upon what you're eating, but typically it doesn't change the taste. Okay, so it doesn't make, one of the biggest reservations I suppose we hear is people saying it's going to make everything turn into a curry. It doesn't. If you want to taste it in your meal, brilliant. But if you don't, then you just need to reduce the volume you're using on a strong meal. So, for example, our middle child, Trixie, our first daughter, she's always suffered with constipation. And again, you can add these kinds of herbs even in things like shepherd's pie, spaghetti bolognese, like standard kids' meals. You can integrate these kinds of culinary herbs into their food without them even knowing it's there. But what it does, by actually integrating these herbs into the meal, as you digest your meal, so you're sitting down with your, whatever it is, you've got quarter to half a teaspoon of this powder in that meal, and I'll talk about how to do that in a minute. As you consume the meal, as you eat the meal, you've physically got compounds in that food from these herbs that stimulate how quickly you break down that food at every stage of digestion. So the food hits the stomach, the herbal compounds in the food increase how quickly you break it down. It then moves down into the small intestine, it's broken down more quickly. It moves down into the large intestine, it's broken down more quickly. So you're actually putting metabolism stimulating, fat burning compounds actually into the food you're eating. So as every mouthful you take, because it's got these compounds in it, it's increasing our ability to burn that off. And it's completely unique because that works very differently than the triphala and the ginger. They work by priming the body before the food goes in. This works by actually changing the chemical makeup of the food to make it more digestible. And that's a completely unique mechanism. You're not adding something in above and beyond your meal. You're physically changing the chemical structure of your food to make it more digestible. And it's such a powerful way. It's such a powerful way of changing the way our body processes food because of what you've got in it. Okay, and there's been research done in Germany on this, looking at things like IBS, looking at things like obesity and weight gain, pre-diabetes, pre-type 2 diabetes, the really big metabolic problems in America. And just by adding in these kinds of churnas, and slightly reducing the volume of food people are eating, you can fundamentally change a person's metabolic profile, because suddenly your body's trying to digest, just pick a meal, standard meal, spaghetti bolognese. Your body's trying hard to digest that, the protein, the fat, the pasta, it's trying to break that down. And all of a sudden, it's trying to break down the same meal that's being supported by hundreds of these phytochemicals that are saying, rather than just relying on the body, we've got these internal stimulants contained in the food now. So it's such an intelligent way of supporting our metabolism, supporting our digestion. If you suffer from things like IBS, if you suffer from things like bloating, cramping, gas, distension, kind of colicky pain, particularly if it comes within an hour or 2 hours of eating, if you feel you have to undo your gene button or anything like that, churnas are absolutely game-changing. Okay, so this one here, so in this one here, and I don't know this off the top of my head, so I'm going to read it off a bit of paper there. So in here it's got, and all of these seeds, all of these herbs you can get right now from any shop. You don't need special ones, okay? So coriander seeds, fenugreek seeds, cumin seeds, dry ginger, powdered ginger, turmeric, black pepper, cinnamon, ground cinnamon, and rock or sea salt. The only one you may not have heard is one called ajwain seeds, Ajwain, ajwain seeds, which are really integral, I suppose, to Ayurvedic Indian Sri Lankan cooking. They look like almost fenugreek seeds. They're hard little seeds, but they're metabolic powerhouses, and if you can get them really easily. If you go to any average to big size Tesco, Sainsbury's, they'll all sell ajwain seeds. Super easy. What I'll do in the comments below, once I finish this video, I'll post up the full recipe because the ratios aren't even. So there's more coriander seeds than there is cinnamon, for example. So the aim is, once you've got all your herbs, you want to try and buy them in seed form. You want to buy fennel seeds rather than fennel powder, coriander seeds rather than coriander powder, because when the herbs are in their seed, they're protected. All of the volatile oils, all of the airborne chemicals, they're protected. So if you buy them as seeds and then you grind them yourself, you're getting a lot more of the therapeutic properties than if you buy them pre-ground. So once you've got all those herbs in front of you, you just literally scoop them out into a jar in the set ratios, put all those seeds into a NutriBullet or a coffee grinder, or even just a mortar and pestle. You know, back in the day, or still, you know, Ayurveda, you know, always advocates using mechanical grinding rather than electric, because you can control how severely, I suppose, you grind the herbs. So just a big mortar and pestle and grind it down into a fine powder. Okay. Once you've got it in powder form, you just need to keep it in a jar with an airtight lid in a dark cupboard, and in that way it will last for, you know, it will last years, okay, because they're dry, they're airtight, they're dry, so they don't biodegrade. To use them, you've then got two options, okay. You can use them at the start of cooking or at the end of cooking, and one is a lot easier and one is a little bit more effort. So the easy way is that right at the beginning of cooking your meal, you just add in about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of churna per person. So if you're cooking a curry or a shepherd's pie, or you know any soup, any casserole, anything, if it's for 2 people, just add in maybe 1/2, 3/4 of a teaspoon into the meal at the start of cooking. If you're cooking, you know, if you're cooking rice or pasta, you can put it into the water, and it transfers from the water into the pasta or the rice or the grains. You can mix it with oil to make like a marinade and drizzle it over roasted vegetables. You know, roasting anything you put in the oven, anything that you bake or roast or cook in the oven, you can cover it with the marinated oil. So you use it at the start of cooking, which is arguably the stronger way of doing it, because it's cooking with the meal. More of the specific chemicals in those herbs are actually transferring across into the food. Okay, like I say, if it's something that you don't want to taste, because that by default has a slightly curry-esque smell, obviously because it's herbs that are used in Indian cooking. If it makes a meal that you don't want to taste like a curry, you just need to reduce how much you're putting in. You don't need a lot. That's the really big thing to emphasize. You don't need a lot. You need just enough to support the breaking down of that portion of food. Okay, so if you try it and it overpowers it, just use less. If you can't taste it at all, maybe experiment with adding a little bit more. It depends on the meal. If the meal is really quite delicate and subtle, you might not be able to put anything in. Whereas if it's quite something that's a little bit stronger, you can put a lot in. Okay, so that's your first option. The second option, which is used a lot if you don't want everyone to benefit from it. So if you're making a shepherd's pie and you put it in, obviously everyone gets that. But say it's just you who wants it, say it's just you who wants the benefit, or even more so, say you want to really quantify how much you're getting, because if you add 1/2 teaspoon per person into a dish, it doesn't necessarily mean you're still going to get that much in your portion. It's a little bit looser. Whereas a way of standardizing it is where you literally season or flavor your specific meal with it. So you plate up your meal of any given food, but you can't use that, well, you shouldn't, some people can, but generally speaking, you shouldn't use that raw. You shouldn't then just add that one on, you shouldn't just sprinkle it over it in dry powder, because you need to heat it first quite aggressively to break down the compounds so that they transfer into the food, because remember, you haven't cooked it with it. So all you typically do is just get a saucepan, add in a little bit of rapeseed oil, ghee, even a little bit of butter, coconut oil, whatever you're using, and just add about 1 teaspoon of that into the hot oil for about 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. And you don't need to time it. You will know, because you don't want to burn them. If you burn them, then you're going to ruin a lot of the therapeutic capacity. The way you can tell when they're ready is that you put it in, you can't smell it, and it'll get to about 4, 5, 6 seconds, depending upon how hot the oil is, and suddenly it's like a herb explosion. It just hits your nostrils, and it's just like this beautiful aromatic smell. As soon as you smell that, that tells you that they're sufficiently heated. Take it off the heat, And then you can just drizzle that. You can drizzle it onto the top of your dish, you can drizzle it over vegetables, you can drizzle it over rice, pasta. If you want the flavour, then just drizzle it on the top. If you don't want the flavour, mix it in, okay, and it kind of masks it. And the impacts that can have upon metabolic stimulation and therefore calorie burning and therefore weight loss is hard to overemphasize it. It's not a cheat, it's not a quick fix, it's not a weight loss fad. It's not to be used in isolation. This is obviously part of the bigger plan. It's about eating the abundance diet, it's about moving, it's about managing cortisol. But for any given meal you eat, if you're sitting down eating your meal, by taking an extra 10-20 seconds of effort, you're getting a whole load more benefit through no extra work. And the other thing that's really important is if you look at the herbs in there, like cumin, like coriander, like black pepper, very, very clear evidence that if you have any given meal whatsoever, a healthy meal, an unhealthy meal, doesn't matter, if you've got those herbs in that meal, compared to the same meal without those herbs in, most of the time you extract between 20 to 30% more nutrients from that meal with the churnas than without them, okay? And it's really easy to skim past that, but if you meditate on that, that is a massive gain. That's saying over breakfast, lunch and dinner, or say lunch and dinner, even one meal, if you've made yourself a really health promoting, vitamin, mineral heavy, antioxidant heavy, abundant meal, high volume, low calorie density, you can get between 20 and 30% more vitamins, more flavonoids, more antioxidants from that meal just by using black pepper, fennel, cumin, coriander seeds, those kinds of things. 30% more. So at the end of the day, you go to bed, and through not eating any more food, you've extracted up to 30% more vitamins, more minerals. That to me is that is absolutely a no-brainer. Okay, you don't need to use that one for that. That will do that, but just black pepper, just having black pepper, a good seasoning of black pepper has been shown to increase nutrient availability by between 15 and 18%. Okay, so it's all these little hacks that you start piecing them together, and then through no extra effort, you're getting these really accumulative gains. And this is when we're using the 12-week abundance diet in clinic with people, this is an integral part. The churnas are an integral part of the program we'll be starting next week. But if you've been using the triphala, if you've been using the ginger, you can just use those, and that's brilliant. You can just use that, or you can use both. You can't overdose on these. There's no drug interactions or risks with these. These are culinary herbs being used at culinary doses. Okay, so you can use that on its own, triphala on its own, ginger on its own, or you might use both.